Hello and good afternoon and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is James. I'm normally joined by Joe, but today I have a very special guest. Joe's actually on her holidays, as a lot of people are this time of year, but here we are in August, the sun is shining, but I'd like to welcome Plamen Ivanov. Plamen, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for your interest and curiosity to be here today. Thank you for giving up the time as well. I hope
Indeed.
we keep you entertained at least, if not even more.
Yeah. Well, Plamen, entertainment's one thing, but information is something else. And today we're going to be talking about how to get ahead of the recruitment market before it dips, because all the news in the press at the moment is talking about an impending recession. And I don't want today to be about doom and gloom. I want to talk about some positive things that we can talk about, but we're going to have to talk about some of the darker moments that may be ahead. But Plamen, before we jump into all of the topics today, what I'd like you to do is, I know you're a well-known character, but there'll be people listening today wondering, who is this guy, Plamen Ivanov? So, Plamen, give me a potted history of your career and why are you someone worth listening to today?
Okay, well, that's one of the questions that they always ask people. Why should you listen to me? Well, I started in recruitment by coincidence in 2007. I was approached by my dear friend, colleague, and partner at this moment in time, Paul Hickey, asking me for some business advice with regard to setting up a recruitment firm. And so we did. In October 2007, we started to trade as Grass Greener Group. Now, initially, I wasn't operationally involved with the business, and the business sort of adopted a very traditional method in their engagement with clients, which was straightforward contingency recruitment. And for the first 3 years, this business sort of traded on that basis. In 2010 or 9, shall I say, I returned back to this business operationally. And not knowing enough about recruitment, the very first thing that I sort of looked at is, as a business, what did it look like? And I've noticed a number of points that needed improvement, typically inefficiencies by the way it manifests itself is you're working on, say, 5 jobs and you fill 2. And the other thing is our average fees were about 16% and £7,000. And what triggered me to consider change? I guess that's probably a story that goes back
Let's
to.
Get to the story later. Give people your potted history. I want people to know who you are. I know. I should pre-frame, by the way, everybody. If you haven't already guessed, Plamen is a bit of a storyteller, and he'll go wandering down track. I'm going to be having like a fishing rod today, reeling him back onto the straight and narrow.
Thank you.
Straight and narrow. You're in a recruitment business, 2007, called Grass Greener Group. Yeah,
yes.
Move on with the chronology. Tell us what else you've been doing since 2007.
I mean, we've launched Grass Greener in 2007, 2010. We started a process that fundamentally changed our business from being a 100% contingent business to, from January 2012, 100% retained. And consequent to that, we've won Best Search and Selection Firm in the UK and nominated for finalist runner-up for the same award, having applied only twice. So almost 100% record. In 2012 or 13, I was attending this Pinnacle Club run by a well-known gentleman called Mike Walmsley. And amongst these people there, we met with some recruitment business owners. And I had a sort of a vision. We've done something in our own business that actually did very well. Our fees increased, our efficiencies increased, our profitability increased. So as a consequence, I actually pitched the idea to a group of people. And guess who was in the audience at the same time as the core business owner? That was James O'Brien. And 12 months later, I disappeared, as James calls it. And 12 months later, I came back and I said, well, I have a solution here. If I could give you this solution, would you consider taking it on? And a bunch of hopefuls and the brave sort of took a jump and adopted what is currently known iIntra. That was 2014 formal launch. And consequent to that, we've got now over 300 clients, having worked with 300 clients, this recruitment firm, business owners around the world, I think 14 countries. And some of these clients, including James's company, Execs Online, and some others, are still clients of ours after 8-9 years, which is very pleasing for me. Now,
Good.
What did we do? I think that's the right question. We've created a service solution, and just to take you back to the point that I was trying to make earlier, please correct me, James, if I'm waffling.
I will.
Or bring me back on track. So in 2010, having just come to the business, having to learn recruitment, I looked at what's available out there. And what I've noticed that the majority of the recruitment firms out in the world were working on a contingency basis, not dissimilar to what we were doing. And there was also another group of companies, very small number of them, tier 1 and tier 2 search firms, that actually had a model that was a retained model. So my intention was, well, I asked myself the question, what is it that we need to do to model ourselves to a recruitment solution that we can actually offer to our clients on a retained basis? And this is how iIntro was born. What we did is we focused on extending the service beyond candidate identification. And most recruiters, and not so much recruiters, but if you actually think of it, the psychology of the client, if you ask yourself and strip all the noise, what do clients expect you to do? And most clients will basically identify as people that go out to market and find them 3 suitable candidates potentially for a role that they're currently recruiting for. So my view is that in the dynamic recruitment world that we lived in and the competitive world that we live in, we need to extend our service beyond candidate identification. So we've modeled some of our services from some tier 1 and tier 2 search firms. We've included some technology, and we've created iIntro, what is known these days as iIntro.
Can I drag you back there? I want to drag back because, in terms of when we look at your story, then obviously you were somebody who was involved in business, not in recruitment, came into recruitment, then worked into recruitment technology. But let's go back. There's always a catalyst because, at that time when you, as you say, you became operational in the grass greener recruitment business, there was a fairly major recession going on. And I want to talk about the topic today because all of the evidence that people talk about, the governor of the Bank of England, for those of you in the UK, he's quite an important chap. He's talking about an impending recession that's coming through. Neil Carberry, the head of the Recruitment Employment Confederation in the UK, again, I was listening on a webinar with him fairly recently, and he also indicated the same. And by the way, just want to trail, that's a bit of a name drop as well, Neil Carberry. Neil Carberry will be joining myself and Joe Gregory on the Retained Recruiter show on the 13th of September. So look out for that invite. We'll be listening to his feedback. But Plumman, there was a recession happening at that time. So obviously things were tough. So what was the catalyst that made you evaluate the recruitment business that you'd invested in? Because I think, as you said, the inefficiencies of filling 5 jobs and taking on 5 jobs and only filling 1 or 2. What made you, where was your eureka moment?
Well, it's a very practical reason. I remember the date very specifically. It was the 10th of March, 2010. We've just invested additional £150,000 into the business. And the purpose of this one is to hire people. So we've employed 5 new people in the business. We wanted to grow the business. And what really gave us the confidence to go ahead is not so much the money that we've just put into the business, but the fact that we've just secured, and if I could say secured in inverted commas, probably our biggest managed service contract. It was not a contract either. It was just basically a letter of intent from a client of ours to say that they will give us the expansion of all the sales roles within Europe and the UK, of course. So there were over 20 roles, and we've agreed a decent fee for the whole process. They said to us that this is exclusive for us. So we started to work. Now, if you think of it, we've just invested a lot of cash in the business and we've hired 5 new people. So we've started to expense quite heavily on the strength that possibly we'll earn about 250,000 pounds in recruitment fees. So I come into the office on 10th of March. It was a Wednesday. And I look at the boardroom and I could see my colleagues are there just having a passionate discussion. So I walked into the boardroom and said, what's happened? And they say, well, we've lost venture tape. I said, well, how did you lose it? It's not a bunch of keys or something like that. Said, no, we just had a phone call from Steve Boxall to tell us that, unfortunately, their parent company, 3M, has just put them up for sale, or they found a suitor. So all costs, boom, finished overnight. Now, regardless of how close we were with the sales director that gave us this wonderful opportunity, there was nothing we could do because there was no contract, no liability, and suddenly I was really worried. Now, I'm not going to bore everybody with the details as to what happened next, but essentially, venture tape was a trigger of having to change our business. And I said to myself, I don't want to ever work without a client engagement, formal client engagement. And that's what happened. We started with a vision first in May 2010. And within a period of 18 months, what I've mentioned to you happened. 100% retained from 100% contingent. What also happened is the interesting thing is, firstly, our productivity increased dramatically because we were starting to get paid for all the roles that we were working on. Secondly, our fees increased, which was very pleasing. And by the end of the 18 months, our fees almost doubled. So imagine productivity increase and fees increase. That's exponential growth that ultimately put cash in the bottom line. And I guess that's what business is about. Now,
yeah, Plowman, I want to try and find a parallel because it's interesting because and again, I'm going to sort of try and debate this one out with you because I'm debating in my own head as I'm going around this one. So what the parallel I'm looking for here is, you had a jolt to your business where, you think things are going along merrily.
Yeah.
You got lots of work on and then boom, it's gone.
Overnight.
So where's the parallel between now? Is that where you think we're heading?
Well, what I really learned from this incredibly relevant and timely lesson is that we needed to change. Yeah. And that was a trigger. That was just a jolt at the time. What we've noticed, though, is that recruitment industry operates in cycles. And we remember 24th of March, 2020, when the government announced a national lockdown. I mean, I was really worried for our business, for everybody around me, for our clients. And it had a major impact. Now, what I've learned, giving you a parallel to my story that I've just given, is that you need to be prepared. And preparation ultimately means that acknowledging the fact that market changes, market conditions change, and sometimes they're outside your control. What is it that you can do to extend your service beyond candidate identification? What else can you offer your clients so you become, from a learned and good friend, Andy Lord, liquid cement? How can you engage with your clients in such a way that they need you, they want you, and they will not substitute you? And we're heading in a direction, in my opinion, where we'll see contraction in the market. And then you'll have a redistribution of business. The people that are prepared with service solutions moving forward, and the people that are uniquely standing out and they can evidence that their service is quantifiably better than anybody else, they will be the ones that will win the scarce business that's available. And the ones that are just typically generic will ultimately have to take the pressure of fee reductions and less jobs and perhaps even more inconsistencies.
Okay, I want to come back to a couple of things you said there, a couple of points I need to pick up. So first of all, about planning. So one of the things that where we can help you on planning is, we have if you like, a blueprint, a retained roadmap that we can have. And if people want to access that, they should be flashing up on the screen anytime now. It should be a little place where you can go and download that report. So that's always good to help people. So get our battle tested plan. Go there to www.retainedroadmap.com and download that totally free of charge. The second thing, Plum, I want to talk about is you use this phrase, and I think the phrase we said, extend your relationship beyond candidate identification. What do you mean by that, and what can people practically do? What does that mean? Because it sounds great, but what is it? What do you mean by it?
Well, if you just think of it, recruitment is about identifying the right candidates for the right jobs. And traditionally, the recruitment has been based on very, very personable relationships, which still continues to be the case, and that's great. But if you just think about it, clients have a number of things to do after we've identified the candidates. That basically is building up an assessment process that is objective, reliable, that delivers predictable results. Now, in addition to that, clients need specialists to be able to help them not only just identify people, but assess them and select them. And finally, clients are always looking as to how to improve their cost of acquisition, cost of talent acquisition, and that's measured in a number of things. What we've been managing, what we managed to do over the past few years is to put together evidence-based structure that enables recruiters to pre-frame the service to their clients and pre-engage them. So at the time when the clients have a need, they already have an expectation as to what service they need to hire. What I say in 3 simple sentences is, we need to rise up to the challenge to be able to do the job instead of the client, instead of just passing the job on to them, better than the client, and in a more cost-effective way than the client. Now, these are the 3 pillars of the service that we offer. And if you just think of it, what does that mean? It's time, people, and money. Mm-hmm. So being able to go to market with a robust talent acquisition solution like that, and being able to consult with the client by extending the service and doing all these things instead of the client, better than the client, and in a more cost-effective way than the client, is, in my opinion, the way forward. We've created it.
Yeah. What about, though, playing devil's advocate here, Plum, because obviously the market is awash at the moment. People are, it's a candidate-driven market. That's what everybody's saying, how there's candidate shortage. People are saying, you sound like you're creating work for me. I don't need to do that. I can just throw CVs at employers, and they're going to bite my hand off for them. So how are we going to combat that, or is it a timing issue?
Very good point. And as I said, the market is cyclical. Mm-hmm. And if you actually think of it from the contingency recruiter point of view, that may be the case. Identifying people and putting CVs across to the client is the way forward, simply because it takes little effort. You could be as fast as possible, and you could potentially put the right candidate in front ahead of the client, so the clients can take a quick decision. Now, because there is not that many candidates out in the marketplace, which is another topic that I'd like to cover a second later, is basically making candidates a driven market. Now, the challenge with that is that there is still not enough of them. So therefore, as you can see, the many vacancies that were available still remain vacant, simply because there is not enough candidates to fill them. Or when you actually find the right candidate, the candidates are actually of high demand, usually come up with very heavy negotiations with regard to fees, with regard to salaries, etc. So I think that the market's peaked. I think the market is heading towards contraction. We don't know how much this contraction is likely to be, but my point is that we have to think ahead of the game here, and the ones that will remain standing, so to speak, will be the ones that will evolve their relationship with their clients becoming a management consultant in talent acquisition as opposed to a recruiter, the good old word recruiter. By the way, don't search it on Google because you might find things that you don't want to be associated with. But bottom line is that extending the service helped us. I mean, talk about practically. What do I mean by that? I've mentioned to you, if you actually looking at your business as a service solution, as something, as a product, ultimately, you need to think of it, how can I sustain profitability? How can I sustain my expenses to start with in a downturn situation? And the only way you can do that is by actually creating well in advance exceptional relationship with your clients. The only way you can do that is by actually extending the service beyond the main element, which is identifying candidates. Now, I'm a bit vague here simply because I don't want to go into the details of this one. We'll run out of time. But the concept that I'm trying to appeal to everybody is don't wait. Don't bury your head in the sand. Start thinking well ahead in advance. What else can I do for my clients? And if you obviously don't know what, you're more than welcome to come to us. We're happy to share.
Flashing on screen beneath now, there should be a link. If people want to book a call with you or any of our colleagues, they can just go onto the link that's going to pop up on the screen below, retainedcall.com, and there you can book an appointment with us. And Palmer will share more details with you. Talk about other things in terms of building that relationship. What are the other things that have jolted you that sort of come to mind that make, because what we want to do here is we sort of want to give people a jolt to say, don't stick your head in the sand. Don't just wait for it to happen. Everyone's telling us it's coming. So therefore we should start to plan. And as you said, getting closer to your clients, easier said than done, of course, because you've got to have some proposition. If your proposition is just candidate identification, as you say, then you've got to think about more that you can do. But Plum, what other jolts have you had, or things that you push people? Have you ever been prophetic, for example?
I've written another article.
The Prophet Plowman.
Another story. I really like this article. I'm very proud of it. By the way, the article is called, let me just paraphrase or give you the exact article. It's called, What Do Game of Thrones, Brexit. Oh, thank you. There you go. What do Game of Thrones, Brexit, and recruiters have in common? The winter is here. Now, just think of it. I'm sure that most of you actually have watched Game of Thrones. So if not, you've heard about them. And there is this continuous discussion about the winter. The winter is coming. The winter is coming. The point is that after 63 episodes and 6 seasons, the winter is coming has become sort of a narrative that very few people started to really appreciate how hard it might be. So people become complacent and starting to disregard what's the obvious. Now, the same thing happened with the Conservative Party and Brexit. Nobody believed that, interestingly, nobody believed that the Conservative Party, that's why they did this referendum, that they will lose, and ultimately Brexit will become a reality for us. For good or for bad, it doesn't matter, or it does matter, but that's another discussion. And thirdly, recruiters. Now, recruiters in moments of euphoria, like we've just had, 2021 was a record year for many companies. They've grown their businesses, they've doubled their staff, they've increased their turnover. The point is that because of this euphoria, we think that we've arrived. This is it. The future is ours. And guess what? The winter is here again, as it will be, again and again and again, periodically. Yeah. So going back to my point, creating relationships, deep, meaningful, three-dimensional, dependable relationships with your clients is an absolute key. And most of you probably say, well, I have a wonderful relationship with my clients, and that's fantastic. The point is when when we get to the crunch, would your client says, oh, remember my good old pal, James O'Brien, and I'll just give him a call and give him the few jobs that they have? Or would they be saying, oh, I've got someone that's offering a service that they charge 12% only, shall I just give it to them?
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I
the
think
key.
I think the message, Plum, there is, in that article that was up on screen there, for the eagle-eyed of you would have spotted it was actually published in June 2016. So this isn't something new. But the point of the argument there is the complacency of people when they're told things, and this is what's happening at the moment. We're being told, and people say, "Oh, we're going to talk ourselves into recession." Well, that's still the indicators of that something's going to happen. Nobody knows the scale of it. But if we can't, I think the point you're trying to make is don't ignore it. Don't become complacent. Think, well, it's not going to happen to me because I've made it. I've sort of got to that particular point. So the reality is, Plan, that complacency. The message that you're trying to say is don't put off something to tomorrow that you can do today. And again, another good old expression, which is very topical at the moment, looking out the window here in the UK, is the best time to fix a roof is when the sun is shining. And you've got that money in your bank, you've had a good year. It's about now time thinking, okay, what can I do that's going to solidify and protect my business going forward? Because out of recessions, when you go into recessions, it's all that transitional phase. You do find that you can get real strength for those who are prepared. And everyone's talking about the preparedness now of people making sure they put in place things to solidify those relationships so that clients understand what you do. And if all you do is candidate identification, then you need to have a look in the mirror, because it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough for you just to say, "Oh, I can find great candidates." Yes, anybody can find great candidates. Finding good talent is hard, isn't it? Well, it doesn't need to be. People have to look at what does it mean to go above and beyond. I love that phrase. How can you do it instead of the employer? How can you do it better than the employer? And how can you show them it's more cost effective? Those three methods around time, people, and money.
James, just to add to this one here, you need to be able to put your money where your mouth is. And let me give you a reference to that. Our service solution ultimately delivers in excess of 96% retention. Now, some people might say, how do you know that? We actually measure. iIntro, through its network, has been able to assist recruiters place in excess of 7,000 jobs around the world. Over 140 million pounds, equivalent $180 million of retained recruitment fees. Now, if you just think of it, something must be going right here for us to be able to maintain this sort of level of business. But if you think of it from the client's point of view, not from your point of view, why would they pay you more money? Why would they pay you higher fees? Now, if you think of it, we must be offering a service that they clearly identify, or we are able to articulate clearly to them that this service is better than actually taking multi-agency engagement, exclusive, so to speak, and willing to pay 25% plus fees, which we regularly win. So that's, I suppose, the question that if you've got the curiosity, you need to ask yourself. And I wish everybody absolutely a successful 2022 wrap-up and 2023 continuation. But I just read something from my dear friend Greg Savage. I just want to see if I can read it here. He just recently published an article. I'm sure that if you can find his article, but it starts like that. The next 24 months will see emergence of two types of recruiters, winners and losers. Which one are you? The industry has thrived in the past COVID's, in a post-COVID surge, but it won't last. Being successful now in terms of dollars and pounds is zero guarantee that you will be the match fit for the what's coming next, etc., etc. So there you go, Greg Savage with 350,000 followers on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. Probably one of the most influential recruitment coaches around the world, and a businessman, well known. Obviously, for the ones that don't know who he is, just Google him.
Yeah, well, his blog's called The Savage Truth, so you can certainly do that. Plum, and just as we start to wrap up now, because obviously just conscious of people planning their time around it. What are a couple of key points for you for people to take away? What should they be doing right now as they head towards this winter that's coming in baking heat at the moment?
Don't be surprised. Think about it in advance. Put your ducks in order. Just imagine what might happen if your business drops down by 30% doing what you're doing at this moment in time. How would you be able to sustain the new employment of the people that you've hired? How would you be able to sustain your expenses and investments that you've made? So cash flow is king, and cash flow through production comes through retained recruitment. So think, what do you need to do to change? And if you don't know, the easiest thing to do is to
get in touch,
book a meeting with us, or drop me a direct message or something like that. We are speaking regularly to 20 to 50 people that inquire with us on a regular basis. We are actually almost 100% inbound. So people come to us. We'll teach how to do that if you don't know. And speak with me for what's it worth. And I'm not apologetic for actually saying these things. Reason being is that they only know one thing that actually works. And I'd like to share it with people. And if people elect not to do that, once again, preparation is key, and you need to start now. Once you have the money, once you have the time, and plan for it. Yeah. Don't delay it until the winter arrives, because there'll be no coats available.
Nice finish, Plum. Listen, Plum, and thank you very much for your energy today, your enthusiasm. I'm sure that came across over the airwaves to everybody watching. As I say, if you do want to get in touch with Plum, and please do book a call with him. Please do watch out for our next Retained Recruiter Retained Recruiter show. No roadshow in it. I'm not going out on the road. Retained Recruiter show. We'll look out in your emails for that. We'll look forward to meeting you again next time. But Plum, thank you very much for joining us. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from Joe and Plumman.
Yo.